The Owen gun is right at the top of the meta right now in Warzone, thanks to its utility at different ranges, a forgiving high fire rate, and a big magazine, ultimately giving it a fantastic time to kill. It's not surprising then to see it at number 5 in the most chosen weapons, and at number 1 in terms of the highest kill to death ratio in Warzone right now. Despite it being a hugely popular weapon though, there are many versions of it that are viable right now, since it is a Vanguard weapon and you can have all those different attachments that it does offer us. Which is why in today's video, I'm going to be trying out DiazBiffle's Owen gun class setup specifically for Rebirth Island on console, and of course that's on FOV. Now obviously on consoles, we do have that lower FOV and usually lower frame rates compared to PCs, so the Owen gun does take up more of the screen for console users and can generally be harder to use. On top of that, I am a decent player, but nowhere near the level of DiazBiffle, so we'll see how usable this Owen gun class setup is for the likes of you and me. But first, let's go over the actual Owen gun class setup, shall we? So we start off with recoil booster increasing that fire rate, reducing the accuracy. Then we've got the Hawkinson rapid fire, again we've got some more fire rate and reduced accuracy. For the optic, he runs the Model 47, then he has a removed stock for that increased movement speed and aiming down sight speed, but again we have some reduced accuracy. Next up, he runs the M1941 hand stop to get some of that accuracy and recoil control back. Then we've got the Gorenko 72 round drum increasing the recoil control and fire rate again. For ammunition, we have hollow points for that extra limb damage. Then we've got the fabric grip, which improves our ADS and sprint to fire time. Then finally for the perks, we have fleet for that movement speed and weapon swap speed, and quick for that sprint speed as well. This class setup, as you can see, is geared up perfectly for Rebirth Island and those close to medium range gunfights, as well as those engagements when you're against multiple opponents. We've got a huge focus on fire rate and movement speed, and let me tell you, it's insanely fun to use. That was my first impression of this class setup when I used it above all else. The fire rate just absolutely blows people away, and then with that increased movement speed, you can finesse away from other players in gunfights quite easily and get back into the fight. The downside to this setup, as you may have guessed, is around that recoil control, especially at the medium distances. This takes some getting used to, and you'll either figure out how to control the recoil, or figure out that you shouldn't be challenging at those distances and leave it just for those close ranges. I mean, in my first game using this in a solos on Rebirth Resurgence, which is shown in the background here, I absolutely whiff just some quite clear and easy shots, just because that recoil is bouncing around. Fortunately, its close range performance outcompetes pretty much every other SMG, so did get me out of a lot of trouble. The other downside to Biffle's Owen gun class setup here is just the sheer amount of room that the Owen gun takes up on your screen when you're playing on FOV. This isn't necessarily to do with the class setup itself, although some reticles can help with this, but particularly when you're aiming in, you can just miss out on some visual cues, which are the difference between living and dying, because you've got this big chunky Owen gun sat in the middle of your screen. Overall though, if you can get used to the recoil control on this Owen gun and you don't mind some of your screen being taken up, particularly on FOV, you'll absolutely love this weapon because it just simply shreds. I hope you enjoy this Rebirth Island class setup, and if you want to get even better at Rebirth Island, make sure you check out these settings designed specifically for it. See ya!